Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Empyrion Galactic Survival Episode 20. I'm Enigmius, and today we are tying up some loose ends before we take a look at our capital ship in progress. Now, we're at a spot where we need to start looking at getting off of the planet because we've almost depleted the exploration resources that we can have. There's lots of mining resources that we can have, and we're probably going to end up using a number of them before we make our escape. But we're really at the point now where we can't be focusing our attention on various different exploration targets because there aren't that many left, if there are any left at all. One of the things that I wanted to do as part of this whole thing of just tying up all these loose ends was go to the Talon Guardian village that we had spotted previously when we were sieging the drone base and its guarding Epsilon outposts Mark 1 places. We saw it came up on our scanners, we finished attacking the bases that we were attacking, and then we left and never really came back because it seemed like the kind of place that probably wouldn't have a lot of what I was looking for. And again, the main target for our explorations is finding the materials, the ore and the ingots that we can't get on this planet because we need them for some of the things that we're going to be putting into the capital ship in order to make it go. Very simple idea. So we went back to the spot where the Talon Guardian village was located, and I decided as far as this one went that I didn't really want to put myself in a position where there was going to be a lot of combat. Not necessarily because I was concerned that we wouldn't win, but because you use up a lot of medicine, you use up a lot of ammunition fighting these guys. They don't give us experience anymore because we're maxed out. They don't drop anything particularly valuable. It's mostly food and sprouts and things like that. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not necessarily the kind of thing we're going to go out of our way to fight them for. So I went around with my sniper rifle and I found the spawn pads. There were a total of 3 spawn pads throughout the entire village, and after destroying those, we were able to basically wander through the village and do whatever we wanted. Find the core, destroy the core, go around, loot everything, salt the fields. And when I say salt the fields, I mean dismantle all of their growing plots so that we can take them back and make our own. They may find it a little bit difficult to grow vegetables for the next little while, and they may have some holes that they need to patch in their homes. But aside from that, and the fact that we robbed them blind, they don't really have a whole lot to complain about. So the only shooting that was necessary was the spawn pads and the core. Everything else was done with the multi-tool. The next thing that I wanted to look at was finding the front section of the MS Titan. The MS Titan being the ship that we were apparently on that was shot down, that crash landed on the planet. We landed on the planet in an escape pod. We found the back section of the Titan, we found the medium section of the Titan, and then we just need to find the front section of the Titan and go through and strip it of anything useful. Well, we found it actually relatively close to the Talon Guardian village, and on our way there was an Epsilon Outpost Mark 1 that we hadn't encountered before. It would have been a pretty straightforward clear, except for the unfortunately timed Skeet shooting competition that we were a part of, and we got launched. Man, I don't even remember exactly what we were doing. We were obviously moving towards the Epsilon base, and we just got flung way up in the air so far that there was a period of time where I thought maybe we had got clear of it because it wasn't shooting at us anymore. We were out of range. But as soon as we started to fall down and we wound up in range, you can see this is kind of the outcome. It was bad. It was hellaciously bad, the amount of damage that we took coming down. It had all 4 guns trained on us and just blasting the hell out of us. By the time we got down to the surface, we were too badly damaged, too slow, and too close to the base to really expect to be able to make an exit without leaving half the ship behind. So we had to start over, which in this case, because I'm an idiot, involved having to redo the Talon Guardian village because I hadn't saved since we started, which kind of sucked. So we redid the Talon Guardian village. We were a little bit more fortunate approaching the Epsilon Outpost Mark 1. We were able to destroy the turrets that could have shot at us. We moved in, cleared it out, and then we moved on and found the front section of the MS Titan. This one was kind of disappointing because these things, they take a while to go through and try and find everything. Sometimes you'll pass by something 3 or 4 times and not even realize it's there until about the 5th time, or until you post a YouTube video about it and a bunch of people tell you missed that. It's the kind of thing that happens. In this case, I was looking again, like everything else, for the materials we can't find on the planet. We did find some in cargo containers, we spent a lot of time excavating around the ship, trying to make sure that we didn't miss anything of significant value, and found basically nothing. We found some extra decorative elements that we could dismantle for some components, but these are the components that we could make with materials that are found in abundance on the planet. So they're the kind of thing where it's like, it's not a bad thing to take while you're there, but you wouldn't go out of your way to go and get it. That was sort of our experience with the MS Titan front section, but at least we can say we found it. We took a pretty good look through it to try and gather what we could, and for now I think we're pretty close to done when it comes to finding places to go explore, at least as far as I really want to go with the hover vessel. Just the hover vessel, I'm over it. We're good until they get that physics thing of launching us way up in the air tackled. I'm very, very happy to leave behind the hover vessel and any exploring that we do. But in order to do that, we have to finish our capital vessel, and that's going to be a little bit tricky. We'll get it done. It's not necessarily going to be exactly what you'll see momentarily here, but it's going to be a challenge, and hopefully we'll be able to get off planet and start gathering our own materials from the planets that have them instead of looking for other people to steal them from. And just like that, we're back at our base. It's taking longer and longer to get home every time we go out and explore. Not a bad thing, but it's definitely something that I'm noticing. The whole idea with all of this stuff, tying off the loose ends, building a capital vessel, stuff like that, was before we even left the planet, was having a ship that we could fly around with and find these things that we hadn't found yet that much easier, because we don't have to worry about getting flung up in the air. We'll have some turrets on the ship that we can shoot down and stuff. That was the idea. Because we didn't have the materials to make the ship that we wanted to, it kind of didn't necessarily work out. But that's not to say that it won't. Just up to this point, it's been a bit of a challenge. Now, this is not a capital vessel. This is a hover vessel. We tried making a small vessel. Didn't really like the way that turned out, specifically the lack of a turret system on the small vessels. But if you look over here in the shadows, you'll see something starting to take shape. Our burgeoning capital vessel in its own little construction platform. It's going to be a hell of a lot easier to take a look at it during the daytime. So let's look at it during the daytime. And daytime it is, or close enough. There's light. There's natural light that we can use to take a look around. We're going to head over there now. I built this sort of walkway. One of the things I mentioned previously, and people are going to flip out that I stopped to talk about this instead of going directly to the capital ship, but there was some changes made that filled out the forest around our base, but also filled out the underwater areas nearest our base, so that we can actually harvest things like kelp and blue crystals right off this platform sometimes. It's quite a thing. But having said that, it made everyone mad at me. I'm just going to move up this way and let you soak in the scale of this ship that we're building. This is far from complete. I'm trying to kind of make it very carefully as I go in an almost modular way, so that I don't lose track of things that I'm trying to accomplish, and the resulting ship is hopefully something that we'll be happy with for a while. You can see this is the wooden platform that I made upon which to build the ship, and you can see that the ship is no longer on that wooden platform, and there's a reason for that. It's because it keeps jumping around as we're building it. So that's something that's been a little bit of cause of concern for me, but it hasn't been that bad. We aren't seeing like a lot of damage to things as a result of it, so that's kind of good. You can see we've got a lot of large thrusters on this guy, and when I say large, I mean bloody enormous. These things are absolutely massive, and we can actually give you a sense of the scale of these things. We can just hop into our drone for a second. There's me, and there's a large thruster. So these were both the things that I'm really happy to have on the ship, and also the things that I'm not at all happy to have on the ship. The reason is because they draw a ton of power. They provide a great deal of thrust, but they draw a ton of power, and that's kind of the biggest difficulty that we're having with the design so far is that if we fire this guy up and we try and ascend, we get up to between 600 and 800% power consumption, which means way over, and the power will eventually cut out. Now either it cut out or it used up the one large Prometheum pack that we put into the fuel tank, one or the other. Doesn't really matter. We've got two ways that we can solve this. We can provide more power by the way of adding more generators, more fuel tanks, and more power packs, or we can remove some of these thrusters so that it doesn't consume as much power, and we can kind of fiddle with that a little bit once we've got everything sort of in place to experiment. I would like the option to just add more power production and have these guys fully powered whenever we want to go somewhere. It's not going to be an issue, relative to the option of removing some of the thrusters, and then as we add more to the ship, finding we have to add the thrusters back, and then that means we got to add more power and all this other stuff. But we'll see. I mean, there's compromises we can make one way or the other, as long as the end goal is something approachable. And the end goal, of course, is to get off-world, somewhere up there, try and stay out of trouble. So this is basically the exterior, and like I say, this is just the inner core of the exterior. It's all made out of hardened steel blocks, except for this section underneath, and you'll notice it's a different texture. I didn't change the texture. These are the combat steel blocks on the underside, and anything that we really need to protect is sitting on this strip of combat steel blocks. Obviously, this is the bottom. They're sitting on the top side, but you get the idea. We're doing our best to protect the important things as much as possible, with the understanding that there's going to be another layer of hardened steel blocks underneath this whole thing. So that's the long-term goal. The short-term goal is just getting it to work with the power consumption and all that other stuff. So for now, if we want to get in here, really the only way to do that is to have our jetpack on and to make a bit of a running jump, and then we're inside. It's kind of dark in here because I've got everything turned off, but fortunately we've got our flashlight. We've got a pair of large generators. I have 6 more large generators under construction inside our outpost. I don't know if we're going to get all 6 of them made with the materials we have, but it's going to be a significant boost over what we've already got with the 2 here. We've got a bunch of ammunition containers, 6 large ammunition containers. We're probably going to end up moving these to make room for the generators and the fuel tanks that we need. These guys, realistically, a little more flexibility in terms of where I'm willing to put them, but these are also the volatile things. When they get destroyed, they tend to blow up. And of course you lose all the ammunition that was in them. So we want to protect them because ammunition is important. We've got a bunch of the tier 2 RCS units. This thing is actually, and you'll see it more when we've actually got it up and running, but it's pretty maneuverable for what it is. We've got 10 tier 2 RCS units, and that makes it a pretty nice kind of ship to try and turn left and right with. We've got this view here with a little bit of a ridge underneath. I don't even remember specifically why I did that. I think it seemed like a good idea at the time. And then on this raised sort of platform is our control table. This is basically the equivalent of our cockpit for the capital vessel that we hop into if we want to pilot the capital vessel, which we don't because we don't have enough power. But you can see where we're going with this is we've got, we can see outside. We're going to build around this as well to protect it as much as we can so that things don't just shoot through the glass and destroy the control seat. That would suck. This section here, you may have noticed a lowered section equivalent to this on the underside, and then this guy here, and those are protecting the core of the ship so that we don't lose control of the ship if that one little block gets destroyed. And again, it'll be protected on the other underside by more hardened steel blocks. So we're making an effort to protect things. We've got already some stairs in place to take us to upper deck. The stairs aren't working. I don't know why. That's okay. It's not that big of a deal. We broke the stairs. Up here we've got kind of an observation deck. I'm not really big on having these areas in my ship that make sense if you were someone living on the ship. It don't make sense if you're the only person operating the ship and you never walk around the interior unless it's for a specific purpose. That having been said, it seemed to make sense to have something like this. If we have a crafting area nearby, probably on an upper deck, you can kind of stop by and take a look. Or maybe you're up in the crafting area and you hear all hell breaking loose, you can kind of scoot down here and see out the windows and get an idea of maybe what's going on before you get to the bridge and makes, tactical decisions about how to defend yourself or, make peace with the people who are shooting at you or whatever you need to do. And then this area up here is another example of incomplete modular things that'll probably be changed long before the ship is done. This has got another window, and this is ultimately intended to be the upper sort of crafting deck. This is where we're going to have our constructors, most of our storage containers, things like that, where we can assemble things, we can store things in refrigerators, do whatever we need to do with materials as we're traveling around gathering things and looting things and all that other stuff. And it too will be protected to an extent. I'm not so concerned about protecting our crafting area because things tend to be less expensive to replace. But it'll definitely be detached from the rest of the ship, and then the outer hull will be what defines the actual final look of the ship. Much as I've spent a little bit of time detailing certain round things and stuff like that, that's kind of fun. It's not necessarily to say that that'll be the final look of the ship once everything is sort of taken care of. That's the capital vessel we've been working on. Let's very quickly go and see if our generators are done. And if they are, then that will hint that by the next episode we should have this guy up and flying around and let you see kind of what it looks like and kind of what it flies like as we get ready to head off into the wild blue and then black yonder. It's so noisy in here. How many? We got all 6. That is fantastic. We still got 2 power coils that we actually picked up as loot from one of the places we were at. And these are all the components that we have to make other things. And we've still got lots of those, lots of those, lots of those, lots of those. So we're in good shape. One of the things that I wanted on the ship, in addition to just enough power to make it work, was some turrets. Enough turrets to properly defend the ship so it can auto-defend itself, but also give us the option as we're flying around to pick fights with people and actually have like a gun turret to do it instead of artillery. So that's where we're at. Next episode, expect to see considerably more progress on our capital vessel, and then as soon as we're ready to either move around and finish off the exploration of the planet or head off into space, then that's exactly what we'll do. If you want to be notified about the next episode, you can subscribe to my channel or follow me on social media. Links for social media always in the information box below the video. Feel free to leave your comments and feedback. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.